Perfect.
Wonderful. Well, welcome, everyone. We're super excited to get started today. We have a special guest, Amanda. Amanda, you changed your last name.
Yes, it is Doane now. I
Doane.
used to be Cooper. It is now
That's
Doane.
all right. Awesome. Well, congratulations on your marriage. And we're super excited to have you in today. I know we're going to dive pretty deep into goal setting and belief shifting. So I'm super excited to see what that outline looks like for today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to dive right in. I'll share my screen and we can get started. Um, it says I
There
can't
there
start.
you go. You should be able to. I
Perfect.
guess
Can you see that?
I can.
Awesome. So I'm just going to dive right in. This is a training that I did actually more so for clients going into the new year, but it really applies across the board. So I'm going to be talking about goal setting and behavior change and things that go into that a lot of people don't consider when setting their goals or starting off the new year. So I figured I might as well start with like, why should you listen to me? So I am a certified functional strength coach, certified personal trainer, nutrition coach, twice certified through NCI, health mindset coaching certified. And then I've got, my list of additional qualifications on the side here. But my specialty really is mindset and behavior change. I've really found with working with hundreds of women over the last couple of years that mindset plays a huge role in long-term success. And most of the women that are coming to me don't just want to lose weight, they want to lose the weight and they want to keep it off and they want to understand why they haven't been able to keep it off. So what I primarily focus on with my clients is mindset and behavior change. And a lot of those other things tend to come with that, right? The body composition goals, the fat loss goals, the strength goals, things like that. So I'm just going to dive right in. I like to say we are team New Year's resolution. So I know we're kind of past like the resolution time, but people are still setting goals for the year, and this does still apply. But there is something called the fresh start effect. So a lot of coaches will tell you, there's nothing special about January 1st. And they really say this because they want what's best for you, right? Coaches want you to start tackling those health and fitness goals like yesterday, right? They want you working towards those goals sooner rather than later, which is understandable. But there is actually something pretty special about January 1st. And there are other milestones that fall under this fresh start effect umbrella as well. So research supports this idea. It's called the fresh start effect, but they're basically milestones that are helpful in jump-starting a change. So it essentially like helps your brain distinguish a clear line in the sand between like old behaviors and new behaviors, old identity and a new identity. And it's actually been found to improve motivation as well. So that's pretty cool. New Year's is the biggest one, right? Many of us start off the new year with big goals for the year, but even Mondays count. So things like if you have like a really crappy day and you want tomorrow to be your fresh start, it can be a fresh start. You can start fresh the next day or the next Monday or February 1st or January 1st. It doesn't necessarily have to be the new year. But that is why we are team New Year's resolutions, because it's essentially goal setting. That's what resolutions are, right? It is setting goals for the year. You don't have to wait until Monday or the new year. You can let your next meal or your next workout be your fresh start. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything um, special like a Monday or the new year. So intention setting, this is something that I do with my clients and with the trainings that I do in like my Facebook community. Before we dive in, think about things that you want to achieve in 2024. Like think of 2 to 3 things you want to accomplish within the next year. Now, when we're recording this, we're over halfway through January. but that still leaves like 11 months of the year. You can achieve a lot in that time. So you can still pick 2 to 3 things that you want to accomplish within this year. It's never too late to set goals. So make sure, if you are listening to this, to take a moment to think about what you want to achieve in the next 11 months, next 12 months. And then think about that during and after this training. Why do you want to achieve these goals? Why are these goals important to you? What would be like an ideal 2024? Like if your year went perfectly, what would that look like? And then what would be the minimum that you want to achieve this year, or within the next year? So we're going to dive in and first talk about mindset, because again, I mentioned this is kind of the foundation of everything, right? So what is it? Mindset is defined as the established set of attitudes held by someone, or it's essentially the lens that you view everything through. Why does it matter? Your physical goals are built through daily practices. So things that you do on a daily basis. These daily practices, your habits, behavior, self-control, thoughts, stress, willpower, they're all impacted by your mindset. So when I say it's the foundation of literally everything else, it really is. So somebody with a fixed mindset, we know there's two main mindsets, essentially. We have fixed and we have growth. So somebody with a fixed mindset will avoid challenges. So think about like obstacles or inconveniences in your journey, right? This health and fitness thing isn't always easy. Usually when we're getting started, that part's not always easy. So people with a fixed mindset will avoid challenges. People with a fixed mindset, they believe their abilities, attributes, and certain characteristics are fixed. So often these people will say things like, this is the way that I am. That is a fixed mindset at its core, right? Our abilities, our attributes, certain characteristics, all of those things can be developed and changed over time. Failure, they view failure as proof that something shouldn't be done. So I believe it was Carol Dweck, who's kind of like the mother of mindset research. Her inside her mindset book, she says, if Rome wasn't built in a day, it wasn't meant to be. And that's essentially the one way to summarize a fixed mindset or fixed thinking. Somebody with a fixed mindset is going to give up easy. So think of things like self-sabotage. At its core, it really is just a fixed mindset. Finds other success threatening and impacts self-esteem. So there's actually more and more research coming out, and people even talking about it. Comparison isn't necessarily a bad thing, doesn't have to be a negative thing. Envy really is the thief of joy. We've said for a long time, like comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison doesn't have to be a negative thing. In fact, it can actually be a healthy and beneficial thing. It's envy that becomes that, has that negative impact. And that's really, again, a fixed mindset when we find somebody else's success threatening, or letting it impact our own self-esteem. And then all or nothing thinking. This is something I think that we are all guilty of, is black and white, all or nothing thinking. Again, at its core, it's a fixed mindset. Now, what about a growth mindset? Somebody with a growth mindset is going to embrace challenges, and they're really like looking for them. Somebody with a growth mindset is going to be looking for challenges. They want to be challenged. They look at them as opportunities to learn and build new skills. So they really see things that are hard as something that they want to do, they want to participate in, they want to try at. They believe their abilities, attributes, certain characteristics can be developed and can be changed. And they view failure as an opportunity to try again, build new skills, pivot, change direction. Failure is an opportunity. I like to tell clients, failure it's a speed bump and it's not a roadblock, right? It's an opportunity to slow down, change direction, do something else, build new skills, but it doesn't mean we need to stop or what we're doing isn't necessarily working. They understand that effortful is important for long-term success, right? If this health and fitness thing came like really easy to us, it's really not going to stick long term. Like if when we have to work towards something and put some effort towards something, it's more likely that it sticks long term. People with a growth mindset find other people's success inspiring, and they want to improve, right? Again, looking for those challenges and opportunities to grow, hence a growth mindset. So the mindset work, believe it or not, this mindset stuff isn't like super woo-woo. And the mindset work is meant to help you take action, not to make the whole process a cakewalk, right? This isn't meant to make your health and fitness journey easy peasy. It's meant to help you take action towards those health and fitness goals and understand maybe why you aren't taking action towards your health and fitness goals. Your mindset can have a physiological impact on your body. It's actually pretty important. And they're tying more and more of this mindset stuff to the physical stuff and actually seeing it even in blood work, in cortisol levels, all sorts of, there's a lot of science coming out just correlating the two. So science supports mindset playing a major role in long-term success. So again, going back to that like fixed versus growth mindset, a key characteristic of those that are able to keep the weight off long term is having a growth mindset in regard to their health and fitness. A fixed mindset or all or nothing thinking tends to get people trapped in that cycle of weight regain, which is what many of us and many of my clients, and I know your clients, are wanting to break. So the downside to a growth mindset, there really isn't a like quote unquote downside to having a growth mindset, but there are two sides to this coin. So having a growth mindset means you can change and you have full control over your health and fitness journey. But the flip side to that means this puts the responsibility and the control back on us. And sometimes that can feel like a slap in the face or can even cultivate some guilt for being where we are right now. So this is an opportunity to flex that growth mindset muscle. You're learning something new. This is an opportunity to practice this. With a growth mindset, we can look at that quote unquote guilt as a signal or something to explore, to look into further, and not necessarily as a bad thing. And not something that's going to keep us from moving forward or taking action. Feel free to interrupt me anytime, Clarissa, if you have something you want to add.
Okay, no, this is fantastic. I think this is really great. And I love the slides. It gives everybody a little bit of a visual too.
Yeah, I put a lot of time into these, so
Sure, I can tell.
if anybody wants them at any point, I'm happy to share them as well. So I can send you that link so you can give it to anybody that wants access to it. So growth versus a fixed mindset. You can actually have a growth mindset in one area of your life and a fixed mindset in another area of your life. So maybe you have a growth mindset when it comes to like your intimate relationships, your significant other, but a fixed mindset when it comes to your health and fitness journey. Evidence supports that those with a growth mindset in regard to their health and fitness are more likely to be successful long term and may even find it easier because, again, they're looking at challenges as opportunities. They're looking at challenging things as things they want to do, right? They're good things. And so this process tends to come a little bit easier for them because of that. They're not looking at challenges as a bad thing. So how to actually cultivate a growth mindset? This is usually the number one question that I get when I talk about like a growth versus a fixed mindset is like, okay, so I have a fixed mindset in like this area of my life. How do I actually cultivate more of a growth mindset? Many of us struggle with a fixed mindset to some extent, but usually in different ways. So it could be like limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, all or nothing thinking. Again, at its core, all of those things are a fixed mindset. So first, you need to identify like how and where you are struggling. Is it self-sabotage? Is it all or nothing thinking? Feeling like you have to do a full workout to have a successful workout. And 20 minutes isn't better than nothing. And then you need to understand that you can have a growth mindset in one area and not in others. But the best thing that you can do is translate areas that you have a growth mindset into areas you don't. This takes time, some in-depth like personal reflection. I know that isn't like a super sexy answer, but essentially you're looking at those areas of your life where you have more of a growth mindset and trying to translate those skills into areas that maybe you don't. And oftentimes this is actually a little bit easier, I find, for moms because they tend to naturally encourage more of a growth mindset in their kids, but they may have more of a fixed mindset in other areas that they don't realize. And so they're able to kind of translate that over by looking at this through the lens of like, what would I want, my daughter to do? What would I want my son to do in this situation? Would something be better than nothing? I think that really is if a quote could summarize a growth mindset, it is something is always better than nothing. Set growth mindset focused goals. So these goals are going to have more to do with skills and practices. They're not going to be performance based or like to impress other people. So this is going to mean like looking at a less than perfect day as an opportunity to do better, not a reflection like of your performance or on your performance. So setting goals that have more to do with skills and practices that are going to support your long-term goals. So if you do have physical goals, body composition goals, fat loss goals, nothing wrong with those whatsoever, but setting your goals more so focused on the skills and the behaviors and the habits that are going to get you there is going to be more productive. So don't look at failed goals or bad days as a reflection of your deficiencies. This is a big one, and a big one that I see usually in the beginning of a client's journey when they are getting started. I'll see this in like check-in forms. They'll say like, oh, I was lazy this week. I really lack self-control, motivation, fill in the blank. Just because you had a bad week, a bad day, again, that's not a reflection of some deficiency that you have. You have all of these things. You have self-control, you have willpower, you have motivation. It's just learning to tap into those things. Try and learn from these bad, quote unquote, bad days or bad weeks. I often ask clients, if you were to go through this week again, what would you want to do differently? Would you want to do anything differently? What do you need to do to get better at, or what do you need to get better at for this failure, I say in quotes, to look different next time? So I put in at the bottom here this student example because this is really interesting. I talked in the beginning about like the physiological impact that your mindset can have. And they actually did a study on this where they took a bunch of college students and basically tested them to see if they were more growth mindset or fixed mindset oriented. And then what they did is they gave them 10 minutes. They said, you need to prepare a presentation. You're going to give it in front of your peers and your professors. Or I'm trying to remember. I think they were recorded, but for your peers and your professors to evaluate and give you feedback on. And what they did was they actually, I don't remember if they did a saliva or a blood test afterwards, but they measured their cortisol levels after like getting that information. And those with a growth mindset actually had a lower cortisol response. So cortisol is our main stress hormone, right? It's kind of become like a buzzword in the health and fitness industry, but some cortisol isn't a bad thing. Like that's a natural response. Like your body is getting ready to do something that is maybe a little bit stressful. But those with a fixed mindset had a much higher cortisol response. So that just goes to show that your mindset really does have a like major physiological impact on your body. And they've even done examples on like two different people that get in a car accident, right? One person can be very calm and collected and focused on like, what do I need to do next? That's more growth mindset oriented. Fixed mindset oriented might be more panicked or flustered or unable to focus in that situation. Again, two people in the same situation having a different like physiological response and a different response in terms of their mindset. So it's really interesting just how the two things work together. And the impact that just your mindset has on other things like self-control, motivation, and things that we're seeing now in like blood work, and other testing that they're doing. So neuroplasticity, this is something that Dr. Carolyn Leaf, she's a neuroscientist, talks about a lot. Again, this stuff might seem a little bit woo-woo, but there's so much evidence to support all of this mindset stuff. Your habits, your attributes, and your behaviors can all be developed and changed. And this is because your brain can actually change too. So this thing called neuroplasticity basically means your brain's connections are constantly being formed or lost. So you are essentially guiding how they are being formed as your brain continuously develops. So really interesting, just again, that physiological impact that is there. So taking action, this is something that I hear a lot, especially when people are getting started or struggling to get started in their health and fitness journey. So they'll say things like, I just keep making excuses and not doing the damn thing. I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing it. X, like fill in the blank, just doesn't work for me, which can be true in the case of like mainstream dieting strategies, but there are certain things that this does not apply to. So what we're really saying in terms of making excuses, right? I just keep making excuses and not doing the thing. What we're really saying, and what we may not realize we're really saying, is I'm still weighing the pros and the cons of changing and going after this goal. I'm contemplating if the time and the effort required to do it is actually worth it. Knowing what to do, right? I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing it. I hear this one a lot. I'm sure you do too. What you're really saying is I'm frustrated because it seems there are invisible barriers getting in the way of me doing the thing, whatever it may be. We may not realize that they're there. Not taking action. This is a big one. My behavior is a signal I need to tune into. I need to explore my mindset regarding this goal and determine if I want to get ready to take action or not. Because many of us live in this state of not taking action towards whatever the goal may be, and we don't really know why. Like, why can't we get the ball rolling? Why can't we start working towards these goals? And that can be a frustrating spot to be in. And there's a lot that actually goes into the actual taking action piece of goal achievement. So the stages of change. This is actually where action comes in. So these are two different graphics of the same concept. The stages of behavior change. I like both visuals, so I share both because some are easier to understand than others for different people. So the first phase, this is pre-contemplation. This basically is the phase where you're unaware of the problem, or like in your mind, there is no problem. So there's no change happening in the foreseeable future. Then you have contemplation. This is where you're aware there's a problem, and you're thinking about behavior change, but you're not yet acting on any intention. So this means you're probably not going to take any action for, they say, like the next 12 months. You're just thinking about it. It's in the back of your mind. Preparation. This means you intend to take action. You're ready to change this behavior, just not yet taking action, but likely will within the next 6 months. Action. This means you're actually starting to take steps towards adopting or changing the behavior, but you actually have a pretty high risk of relapsing. So yes, you're making changes, you're getting the ball rolling, you're building up that momentum, but there's always that chance of falling back. And then maintenance. This is where you are essentially you're maintaining that behavior change. Now there is always a chance for relapse, right? Maintenance is not, it's not without work, right? Maintenance is, and that's why many coaches highly recommend mastering maintenance before going into other like phases of dieting, because usually this part is hard to get down in the beginning. Once you have behaviors and habits that support it, it's a lot easier. It gets easier over time. And I think they say once you maintain a behavior for, I believe it's about 2 years, you are much more likely to maintain that long term. So there is a little bit of a timeline there for those that like to have some kind of a timeline. How long is this going to take? So there is a reason why doctors telling you to lose weight or coaches telling you to, choose your hard, and people listing out like the negative impacts of having too much body fat, like aren't going to be the solution to you making permanent changes. Like a doctor telling you need to lose weight, it's really ineffective. Coaches telling you like to choose your hard, it's, making health and fitness changes is hard, but being overweight is hard. That's totally, totally unhelpful. And it's not actually going to help you create any change. Often these people will tell you that you just don't want to do the work. If only it were that simple, we probably wouldn't be having this issue, and you wouldn't be in this situation. But the issue you're facing isn't because you don't want it bad enough. That is not the case, and that's not actually evidence-based. So there are several phases of behavior change, as I mentioned, and you just might not be in the taking action phase. And that's totally normal. You're not going to be in this like taking action phase for like several behaviors all the time. That doesn't mean you can't make changes or you're not going to make changes. It just means you need to hack your goals a little bit. And I'm just going to assume your goal is weight loss because that's most of the women that come to me want to lose weight. So that's kind of what I'm speaking to, but this does speak to other goals as well. Usually you are not taking action because the pros do not yet outweigh the cons of changing. So if you're feeling stuck, unmotivated, finding it difficult to get started, literally because the cons outweigh the pros. So the good news is you can actually change this. Behavior change really is a mental game. Again, all of this comes back to mindset and really it is a mental game. So when the cons outweigh the pros of taking action, you're going to face an incredible amount of resistance. It's literally like standing at the bottom of a mountain and going like, I need to climb this today. That is a lot of resistance towards change. It's not going to happen in a day. So pros versus cons. Is it really this simple? It really is this simple. But this is likely going to keep you stuck on a dieting roller coaster of like being on again and off again. You are going to start thinking about taking action when the cons are roughly equal to the pros of change. So again, more of that like contemplation, pre-contemplation phase. The pros are starting to like level out with the cons. But if you actually want to be ready to make changes, right? Start taking action, getting into that action phase. The pros have to outweigh the cons by like a significant amount. Evidence actually supports roughly twice as much. And there are a lot of hidden cons that people are not thinking about when they're thinking about setting their goals. So we're talking like David and Goliath differences here. Okay. We want twice as many pros as cons. So the solution is to ask yourself or work through this with a coach. How can I reduce the cons of changing and increase the pros? And you might be thinking there aren't any cons, but trust me, there are. There are a lot of cons that you're not thinking about. That's usually where we start with clients. We help them cultivate skills, behaviors, habits that lessen the resistance of changing. This isn't all or nothing. You do not have to be in this like perfect spot to start taking action. So don't take it that way whatsoever. But usually this is a continuous process of like reevaluating your pros and your cons. In fact, it's really normal to have to recommit to your goals multiple times. I often work with clients for a minimum of a year. And it's normal in that process to have conversations where it's essentially recommitting to their goals, whether that's on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, right? That is normal to have those like ebbs and flows. But first, you're going to want to explore the positives of changing. It's not just your clothes fitting better and looking better naked. Get vulnerable with this. There is a lot more to it than just that. How are those things going to benefit your life? Actually, breaking that down is going to help you understand the pros better. Share if you're comfortable. So I know this isn't streamed at the moment, but if you are having this conversation with your coach, share it with your coach if you're comfortable sharing that stuff. The positives of weight loss often go beyond vanity. It could affect your relationship, or relationships or intimacy with your spouse, as in, it could also impact just social interaction. I've had a lot of clients come to me where they limit how much they go out or how much they do with their friends because of how they feel in their own skin. It could be impacting your job performance. If you don't feel like overly confident on your own, you're not going to feel overly confident at your job. It could be keeping you from getting that promotion or maybe even stepping into the dating world. I've had a few clients experience this where they're like, I want to lose X amount of weight before I, join the dating pool again. There are a lot of things that could be positives of you going through this transformation or behavior change process. So be as detailed as possible. Now, trigger warning for anybody listening, because I'm going to talk about some cons that nobody talks about. The list of cons could go on. These are all very individual to you, but I often tell people, each behavior change or action, or habit that you want to develop has a list of things that could get in the way of you doing that. So my favorite example is tracking your food, right? Tracking your food is not as simple as like me telling my client, I want you to track your food this week, right? You need to think about what meals you want to eat for the week. You need to go grocery shopping. You need to, make sure that you have a grocery list before you go into the grocery store, have time to deal with the groceries, prep the groceries, have time in the morning or the night before where you sit down and actually track those things. Now, again, that sounds like a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot, but there are many steps that go into that. So again, a lot of opportunities to create resistance. So maybe you struggle to get your workouts in consistently because you have to ask your husband to watch the kids. This could be an uncomfortable conversation for people. And I've had to ask clients, hey, have you talked to your husband about this? Well, no, I haven't. Okay, that's probably where we need to start, right? There's just resistance. Maybe you struggle with meal prepping because you aren't a good cook. Most people honestly aren't taught how to cook well and how to cook healthy meals well, like how to make healthy food taste good. If you can't make food taste good, there's resistance. Some women have a history of abuse. Again, trigger warning. Keeping the weight on can be a natural protective mechanism they may not even realize that they're doing. Maybe the thought of going through the grocery store with your kids is daunting, so you can't find a time to consistently grocery shop. It's not something that you can add and, do every Sunday afternoon. Maybe it's something you need help with. You need your husband to watch the kids. You need a friend to watch the kids. You need to, figure out grocery delivery or grocery pickup. Again, lots of opportunity for resistance or cons of changing. So really, when you're looking at cons, you're looking at things in your life that can become obstacles or resistance. List it out. So take the goals, the habits, routines you're struggling to take action with, and list out the pros and cons of actually doing these things. So yes, get out a piece of paper, list out the pros and cons for each of those things, and you'll start to better understand why you're not taking action on them. Then start chipping away at the cons. You will slowly get the ball rolling as the pros begin to outweigh the cons. Again, if your resistance towards going grocery shopping or meal prepping is, taking the kids with you, because that's overwhelming. That's a huge task. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. If you ask I don't know, your husband to help out or a friend to help out. Once you do that, you have just lowered the barrier to doing that significantly. And what is the likelihood of you actually following through and doing those things now that you have the help and you have lowered the barrier of doing that? Evidence-based goal setting. So now actually sitting down and setting your goals, right? We've talked about, why you might not be taking action on those goals. But let's chat about actually breaking them down. So the WHOOP method is a goal setting strategy developed by psychologist Gabrielle. She's German, so I'm not going to attempt to pronounce her last name. This is a detailed strategy to help you fully understand what exactly your goal will entail. So, which goal do you hope to achieve? What is your most important wish in regard to your health and fitness? Try to be realistic to an extent. We often don't know on our own what realistic might be. So when we're talking about weight loss goals, I tell clients to set ranges and maybe focus on things outside of the scale as much as you can. But try and keep them somewhat, realistic. If you're setting, 6-month goals, 12-month goals, keep those things in mind. Outcome. What would be the best outcome to achieving this goal or wish? Take a moment, close your eyes. Yes, actually do this. Visualize how achieving this goal is going to make you feel. What are the benefits to achieving this? And I want you to actually create a strong emotional connection to that goal. Again, the more that you do this, the more you can visualize it, the more that list of pros grows. So actually think about what achieving this goal would look like. How would your life be different? Obstacles. What obstacles can get in the way? Look at different things that could get in the way of achieving said goal, including internal things. So again, this is looking at those cons. What obstacles, what resistance might get in the way. And then plan. Plan for achieving said goal and pre-problem solving obstacles. So I'm going to dive into this a little bit and just the method that goes along with the WHOOP method that we use for our clients. So for the plan, diving into that part of the WHOOP goal setting method further, this is something called if-then planning. So after listing out your potential obstacles, the plan consists of what we call implementation intentions. Unfortunately, intention alone isn't enough to actually change behavior or take action. So if-then statements are something I actually learned from my health mindset certification, and it's become an incredibly useful tool for clients. So with your goals on a weekly, monthly, 6-month, or 12-month basis, make sure that you're doing these because we all naturally, our brain has a default when we set a goal and something gets in the way, we have an obstacle get in the way, we all naturally have a default when that happens. So what this is doing is creating a different default, maybe a healthier default for you when things don't go to plan. So it's essentially if fill in the blank happens, then I will fill in the blank. It is a plan B and then a plan C, plan D, and so on and so forth. So I'll give you some examples. So again, this falls under that plan component of the WHOOP goal setting method. Use this for weekly goals, monthly goals, annual goals. But actually make sure you don't skip out on this part because if you don't have a plan B, then when things inevitably don't go to plan, you are going to default to whatever your brain's current default is, and that may not be something that is supportive of your goals. So examples, if I can't work out before work because I have to get the kids ready for school, then I will pack a bag to go right after work. If the weather is bad, I say hello, Oregon, because our weather is terrible in the wintertime. Then I will walk around my house to get my steps in. If the weather is bad, then I will get a 15-minute workout done inside. If I can't get my meals prepped for the week, then I will default to rotisserie chicken, frozen veggies, and some instant rice for easy meals. Or fill in the blank with whatever your easy default is. If I'm craving something sweet, then I will have it and pair it with something more nutrient and protein dense. Again, the list of options goes on and on and on, and these are going to be very individual to whatever your goals may be. Motivation. Let's see where we're at on time. Do you want to dive into this?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, sounds good. I'll try and make it fast. We'll go through this because I feel like motivation is something people talk about a lot or feel like they're lacking. So, true or false, action precedes motivation. Something I see on social media a lot. It's actually false. So, everything that you do is actually driven by motivation. Choosing the Ben and Jerry's and TV over the gym, it's driven by motivation. Again, this all circles back to like that balance of pros and cons, because everything you do is filtered through your brain this way. But this all starts with understanding motivation, not the amount, but the type, because motivation has really less to do with the amount that you have and more to do with the type that you are utilizing. The reason or reasons you do things, they have to have value to you, right? If tracking your food has no value to you, you're not going to do it long term and you're not going to do it consistently. The big three of self-determination theory. So self-determination theory is essentially the theory of motivation. So these are like the three like basic human needs that we need to take action and make behavior change. So autonomy, this is about having like control over your health, your fitness, your lifestyle journey. This is about choice, not being like you're forced to do anything. Again, that's why I like things like meal plans are kind of unhelpful long term. So autonomous motivation or regulation refers to acting out of a sense of willingness, volition, and choice. Controlled motivation or regulation refers to acting out of a sense of pressure, demand, or obligation. So again, this is why a doctor yelling at you to lose weight or a coach yelling at you that you need to be more disciplined is totally unhelpful, because long term, you're not going to do something for those reasons. Relatedness. It's important to feel like you belong and have close and strong relationships. Community is important. So again, this can come through a coach or, maybe your coaching community or even a Facebook community. I know you have an awesome Facebook community. It's a great place to plug in with other people that are, working towards similar goals. And then confidence. This means you actually feel capable of achieving your goals. Small and big, short term, long term. You feel like you have the skills to actually accomplish them. And this actually is often one of the bigger gaps that I see.
Oh, for sure.
So self-determination theory essentially suggests humans have three basic needs that need to be fulfilled to encourage growth and development. And if we don't have those things, we're probably going to stay where we're at. So this is just another breakdown of these things essentially fuel motivation, or at least the motivation that we need to be successful long term. Autonomy, again, as a coach, like it's not our goal to keep you around forever. Not that we mind having, clients stick around. We build relationships with our clients, and love having them. But ideally, we are setting you up for long-term success and cultivating independence for you to be able to do this on your own long term. So autonomy, again, refers to acting out of your own volition or self-endorsement. This means like coaches not just like telling you what to do, right? We could give you the perfect plan, but that's not going to be overly helpful long term. This means not doing something just because someone said to. Hello, doctors and coaches. Coaches shouldn't be making like all the decisions. They shouldn't be saying like, we're going to do this, this, and this week. Ideally, it is a collaboration of goal setting. Remembering that you're in the driver's seat, us as coaches, we're just the GPS, right? We're like the bumpers that keep you from going off the road. You need to feel capable of making your own choices. Again, we want to cultivate that independence long term and not have you reliant on a coach. Relatedness, again, plug into some kind of a community. This just refers to the need to be cared for and caring for others. So again, serving and being served. Find an accountability group or community, work with a coach, have a friend who's on a similar journey to be an accountability buddy. There's lots of ways to plug in and get that need fulfilled. Competence. So this just refers to the need to feel effective in one's behavior. As a coach and you leave us and feel like you can navigate the gym, kitchen, manage your lifestyle on your own, like we have done our job. I often share the hierarchy of competence when I talk about this because oftentimes we start out totally unaware of what we don't know, right? That's unconsciously incompetent. And then we become aware of what we don't know. And then we start taking action, learning new skills, building new behaviors, and we become consciously competent. So we've been able to, build these skills, change these behaviors, but we're still having to be pretty intentional and mindful of them. And then over time, we eventually want to become unconsciously competent. These things have just become a part of our lifestyle and something that we are doing naturally and without much thought. They've become more so habitual and automatic. Motivation. These three components play a huge role in producing intrinsic motivation, which is the most important kind of motivation. Again, the amount you have doesn't matter. It's the kind that really matters. Intrinsic motivation is based off your psychological needs, and accomplishing them is actually fulfilling. So again, that's very different than extrinsic motivation, which we'll dive into briefly. Extrinsic motivation is essentially this is the continuum of motivation because there's a lot of gray area. Ideally, where we want to be is this intrinsic motivation. Not all extrinsic motivation is necessarily like bad, but when we're talking about long-term behavior change, maintaining your results long-term, we really want to edge on that intrinsic side of motivation. So extrinsic motivation is working towards a goal because of external forces, because your boss told you to do something, because your coach told you to do something, because your spouse wants you to lose weight. There's all sorts of extrinsic motivators, even just wanting to fit in your clothes better is more of an extrinsic motivator. Probably falls somewhere more in that gray area. But intrinsic motivation is goals based off of personal fulfillment. So something you actually find value in. It aligns with your identity. Again, there's a little bit of a gray area here. So goals set just because they align with your values, goals that align with your identity. So for an example that I like to give would be like a health and fitness coach who, obviously health and fitness is something that we find personally like fulfilling. Like that is something that is we're highly intrinsically motivated to do and do long term. But let's say we had a goal of like losing 10 pounds before a wedding or our wedding or, something like that. That would be more extrinsic motivation, but at its core, it's still aligned with our intrinsic motivators. So again, those things aren't bad, but at the root of all of it, it needs to be intrinsically motivated. So again, coming back to goals, helping you understand your intrinsic motivation better. There's an exercise we call the 5 whys, and this is essentially asking, first of all, like, what is your goal? Fill in the blanks with whatever it may be, and then asking yourself why 5 times until you really understand why that goal is your goal. At its core, it's usually maybe a little bit more vulnerable or uncomfortable to dive into. But this could start off with, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? Giving your reason, and then asking yourself why that reason is your reason for wanting to lose 20 pounds. If you actually take the time, like journal about this, write it down. It'll help you understand and help you cultivate more of that intrinsic motivation. Understanding how do you want to feel? Again, in 6 to 12 months, when you've achieved your wish, or your ideal outcome, how do you want to feel? How is your life going to be better when you achieve that goal? What are you going to gain? What are you going to lose? And then lastly, I say set practice goals. So again, this is going back to setting more growth mindset oriented goals, goals that are more so set towards your skills, behaviors, and practices that are going to support more of those physical goals, or more of those maybe extrinsically motivated goals. Again, just to finish this off, if anybody wants this presentation, I'm happy to share it. It might be really helpful just to have some of the questions off of here to reflect before venturing or setting your goals for the year. Again, we're already into 2024, but that doesn't mean you can't set goals for the next 6 months, the next 12 months, or even just the next week. If you want this to be the last quote unquote fresh start, these strategies are going to help you be successful long term and kind of help you get off that dieting hamster wheel that many of the women that come to us are stuck on. The end. So that was a lot of information. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that was a ton of information. I think it's fantastic. I did a goal setting session like on January 1st, and we have a roadmap to success, which kind of outlines some of what you talked about, but you went way more in depth to it. So I think, you know, between what you've got here and the guide that we gave them, they should be pretty well equipped to hammer out what a much better 2024 would look like in comparison to,
Yeah,
you know, the previous years. So that's exciting.
yeah,
If you want to me
oh,
over the link to that document, I can post it underneath the recording.
yeah, I'll make sure I send that to you once we jump off. I think it can be easily overcomplicated goal setting. It really can be. And really a lot of this stuff applies to, I think, those that have felt maybe stuck for a while or like don't understand why they're not taking action, you know, on their goals. And so understanding like at the root of all of it, what you need to support your goals, is really what matters, no matter what those goals might be. So hopefully these two things combined, they should be ready to rock and roll this year.
Yeah, no, I think it's some excellent tools we've been able to supply. So thank you for sharing this. I
Yeah,
found it super helpful. I'm sure our community will as well.
yeah, I'll make sure I send those slides over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for those that are listening. Be sure to tune in next Monday. We will have somebody else speaking.